Listen to Sean Fraser, our Minister of Justice here in Canada, just weasel out of an answer about criminal justice reform and bail reform and this whole thing. It's so ridiculous. But let's give him a fair shake. Larry Brock's going to ask him a quick question. Let's just see what Sean has to say. And then I'm going to look at a crime that happened today or yesterday, actually. And just like, let's just think about this whole thing. Watch this.
Thank you, Minister. Will you commit today to repealing the principle of restraint under Section 493.1 of the Criminal Code to stop repeat violent offenders from being released back onto our streets? Yes or no?
You should expect to see changes to the way the principle of restraint is codified in the criminal code. I would point out that a repeal of the principle is not necessarily the appropriate language, given that the principle of restraint is recognized in common law and upheld by the Supreme Court of Canada.
So I'll take that as a no. Thank you, Minister.
And we will be making changes.
Thank you, Minister.
I'm glad Conservative Larry Brock takes that as a no. That rambling is definitely a no. But before we just get into that, look at this. Okay, I wanted to chat GPT because they're good at giving simple answers for everyday people for this kind of thing. So I said principle of restraint, section 493.1 Canada. Describe it in simple terms. What is it exactly? So when someone is arrested or charged in Canada, decision makers like police, whatever, they must aim to release that person as soon as reasonably possible rather than detain them. That's the whole problem here. So they don't put them in jail, they just let them out. That's the whole catch and release thing, this section here. So if release is granted, which it always seems to be, it's got to be the least burdensome, the least harsh conditions. So in other words, conditions that are as strict as necessary. All right. And then I ask this, look at this. I say, does this also include being less harsh to minorities who commit the same crimes? So imagine like some minority like murders someone. Is that, do they get less harsh of a punishment immediately than like a white person? And they said, that's a really good question. And yes, it does. You're supposed to consider the background of minorities and indigenous people. So the law states that decision makers, police, blah, 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 must give particular attention to the circumstances of indigenous accused and vulnerable, that's like minorities of any type, when applying the principle. So, yes, it does that. And the reason is they don't want systemic overrepresentation of indigenous and marginalized, that's everybody else, people in Canada in the jails. So they think, for example, if someone from a certain minority group committed a whole bunch of murders, but they're only 2% of the population, but they're doing half the murders, they think somehow it's overrepresentation if you have them in jail more than 2% of the people. They don't care who's committing the crime. They just want to see, oh, you've said that's too many. Now, let's just quickly look at this crime that happened, as I said yesterday, and see if this, this is where the rubber's actually meeting the road. This is really what's going on. Watch this.
54-year-old Amir Shafee was taken to hospital with
I had
life-threatening
it
injury.
on too fast there. Just see. This guy was taken to hospital. Let's see. Just go normal speed. Okay.
And was pronounced dead. The cause of death determined to be blunt force trauma.
The police have arrested one person close by. The arrest was made without incident. Police are currently not looking for any additional suspects.
23-year-old Raymond Kim of Richmond Hill now stands charged with second-degree murder and 2 counts of breach of probation. Police say at the time of this latest offense, Kim was bound by 2 probation orders for...
Okay, so the guy already had 2 orders, so he was supposed to not do this. So instead of going to jail with that section 493.1, they said, well, let's not put him in jail. Let's give him another chance. And then the other one was, let's give him another chance again. So that's the whole idea, catch and release. You let these guys out, and then he's walking down the street in this, reasonably new and nice neighborhood and just murders someone in the middle of the day. Now, he could have been in jail. He should have been in jail. But like babbling people like our justice minister makes excuses for this kind of thing. So That's where the rubber's meeting the road. Okay. Now let's just see what else the guy says.
Last month, in response to the Conservative announcement of the Stand on Guard policy, you tweeted out, quote, "This isn't the Wild West, it's Canada." Around the same time that you tweeted out this tone-deaf statement, in Hamilton alone, more than 80 shots rang out at bars after they were closing, leaving 3 injured. In Toronto, a 19-year-old was shot and killed in a mall bathroom. 2 17-year-olds were charged. In Ottawa, a Jewish woman in her 70s was stabbed and sent to hospital just for being Jewish. In Calling Lake, Alberta, a man wanted on a Canada-wide arrest warrant was charged in a violent home invasion where the homeowner was shot and killed. If these and thousands of other crime stories that are happening around this country on a weekly basis aren't indicative of the Wild West, what would meet your definition, sir?
This is
Now, quickly, before he answers this, so this all came about a few weeks ago when some guy, some idiot broke into someone's house in Lindsay, Ontario, so kind of in cottage country, at like 3 in the morning. The guy has a weapon. He breaks into his house, and the homeowner beats the intruder up. So imagine getting woken up 3 in the morning or later. The guy's got a weapon. He's in there for, to steal your stuff, whatever, like do something with the weapon. And then the homeowner beats him up, and then the homeowner gets charged. Okay. Because you're supposed to wake up in the middle of the night and figure out, like, oh, maybe I don't need to, I have to be really careful or I'm going to be in trouble if I beat up this person, even though you'd obviously be scared for your life. You'd be freaking out if someone was in there with a weapon. So that's the context. Okay. That's where this all came up when he tweeted this. Let's see what he says now. Watch this.
important conversation. Canadians should know that they have the right to defend themselves under the law in their homes if they are faced with such circumstances as you've described.
But again,
and they
that's
have
not what
the ability
happened.
to use force to do so when it is reasonably necessary. Jurisdictions that have adopted the proposal that you've suggested have not become more safe and have created new dangers. And just a few weeks ago in Texas, there was a 12-year-old boy killed by someone who thought he might have been an invader when he was playing Nicky Nicky Nine Door. You hear stories about people who are mistaken for invaders who are delivering packages. What we're saying is where they're...
Okay, buddy. Listen, some 12-year-old kid plays Nicky Nicky Nine Door and gets murdered. That's not what anybody wants. Murdering someone delivering a package, that's not what they're saying. The question, Sean, was about the guy in Lindsay who literally now has to get a bunch of lawyers and get dragged through the court system because he beat up a home intruder at 3 in the morning with a weapon. Okay? So it wasn't the case that, like, why is that guy having to go through the court system? Okay, that's the question. Why is that person? We already know for a fact it was an intruder with a weapon at 3 in the morning. That person in our country, under your rules, is having to deal with it. It's not the Nicky Nine Door or the delivery thing. So
there is a set of circumstances that is unreasonable. The police should be able to make an independent decision. The law that was put in place by Stephen Harper, and it's a law that I actually support.
Oh, now he's pretending that he's a Stephen Harper guy. Okay.
You have the right to defend yourself in your home. I would remind colleagues that we have an opportunity to discuss the hate legislation that we brought forward. I hope subsequent questioners will take that issue.
Oh, barf. Okay, I've had enough of the guy for today. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully you subscribed. Love to hear what you think. Even if you disagree with me on something, I like to have a back and forth, a respectful one in the comments. Doesn't mean I'm right about everything, but I just like to, I like to have the back and forth so we can all learn from this. But this is my vantage point, so I like to share that. So anyway, hope you liked it and see you in the next video.